Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first annual Buddy Talks Christmas. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and I have a very special format for this episode. I talked to a couple of past guests, to Brandon, Anna, Adam, Will, and Mike, and asked them all 3 questions. It was the same 3 questions, and I was very interested to see how different people would interpret these questions. Those questions are: everyone has their own traditions. Why do you do what you do? What Christmas means to you? And a memorable Christmas memory. And I think it's an interesting take about how people feel about Christmas. Why do I do what I do regarding Christmas and its traditions? For me, I like to follow traditions because it means a lot to me. It's habits and things that I've done with other people that I can now share with sometimes new people. So, for instance, one of the things that I do is on Christmas Eve, I go to my parents' house and we open up gifts on Christmas Eve. It used to be at midnight, but then that changed when my nieces were born, and that's usually around dinner time, maybe 6 o'clock. And now that Anna's in my life, she partakes when she's in town, and she also joins me on Christmas Eve at my parents' house. And on Christmas Day, we go home. Well, we're at home, and we have gifts for each other, and we just kind of enjoy each other's company. Sometimes I'll have my friends come over. Sometimes Josh, Joe, and Jeremy will come by, maybe Lou. And oftentimes if Anna's here, her mom will be in town, and she'll be there as well. And it's all a good time. We get to enjoy each other's company and enjoy ourselves. That's why I do what I do, because I like being together with friends, enjoying life, reminiscing about the past, and looking forward to the future. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Marvin.
How's it going?
It's going. It's warmer.
Christmas. So for Christmas, you go all out. You mentioned this, Clark Griswold. For people who aren't certain who that is, there's a movie that came out, I want to say 1992, 93?
Is it that new? I thought it was old. I thought it was 80s. I want to say it's like 88.
National Lampoon
Christmas
Vacation. 89. Okay, I was off. Wow.
Classic.
Yeah. Clark Griswold, he went all out for Christmas, and he decorated his house like you wouldn't believe. Like, it lit up the street.
It sure did.
And I know you take great pride in decorating for Christmas.
In bugging my neighbors. I absolutely... No, I'm kidding. My neighbors
People love it.
They
People love your display.
Yeah.
What drives you to do that?
At first, it was... I wanted, like, I've always been big on Christmas. Like, I'm not a Halloween guy. Thanksgiving could take or leave. I'm not a big turkey guy, but Christmas, and it's not the gifts and the stuff.
Yeah.
It's the cold weather. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Florida.
It's something about Christmas that's just, it's legit magical.
Yeah.
And I love this time of year. I love making people happy. Like, I love putting a smile on someone's face. And a couple of years ago, there was this huge viral video with this light show that was synced to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra song "Wizards in Winter."
Yeah.
And I was like,
"Is that the name of that song?"
Yeah, it's called "Wizards in Winter."
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I started looking into it, and it is prohibitively expensive to do one like that. Not that I won't do it one day, but right now I can't quite swing that. So what I decided I was going to do was get a strobe system and just put a ton of lights on it so that I could get a similar effect.
Okay.
And the first year I did it, I did a string of lights along my gutters and a couple in the bushes, and that was that. And I was like, this ain't it. This ain't enough. So then my kid, he was, I've been doing this, maybe 6, 7 years now?
Yeah.
He was 2, and he's seen more Empire Strikes Back at that point in his life than I had.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to do something Star Wars. I had put a bunch of Star Wars inflatables on a layaway because I was going to do something with them. I just wanted them in the game room or something. And then they marked them down to $5.
Ooh.
So I got the Vader, my original. Oh, shout out to my OG Yoda. He became one with the Force this year.
Oh, unfortunate.
I couldn't, sir. I had to buy a new one. I couldn't.
Strong in the Force.
Couldn't save him. But I got Chewbacca, R2, Yoda, and Vader for $20.
Wow.
And those things are normally $30 a piece.
Yeah.
And so I put them in the yard, and we got a bunch of people that would stop by, and because we were just doing normal music the first time around.
Yeah.
And then people started stopping by for the Star Wars stuff. So then I started putting Star Wars music in the show. And then I put a large Jedi symbol on my roof. And then it took off from there. So I think we've done the Jedi symbol. We've done Vader and Obi-Wan fighting. Or no, we did Vader and Luke fighting. And then I did the Duel of the Fates. I did Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon fighting Darth Maul. I did a Death Star. And this year we have the Millennium Falcon on the roof. Yeah, I love Christmas. Like, as somebody in full disclosure who deals with depression and who deals with some mental health issues, it's nice to have a time of the year that's somewhat dedicated to, just being nice to the person next to you. Mm-hmm. And it's a blast, man. I love it. And my grandmother, rest her soul, she loved Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And the first year that I got extravagant with it, I was like, I want my grandmother to see this from heaven. That was my idea.
Yeah.
And then it just took off from there. But yeah, it is Christmas is amazing, man. I like the look on my son's face when he rips into his gifts. I like watching him watch our house bother our neighbors. I love my neighbors as I'm putting it on the roof. They'll drive by and slow down and start clapping and cheering and, yeah, I can't wait to see it and all that stuff. And I'm not big on attaboys, but that's one of those things that I take a small amount of pride in. So, yeah, when you sit down and watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and you get to that point in the movie where he gets the lights to work, and you see his face, that's me every night when I go home and start my lights. It's absolutely amazing.
My biggest tradition is probably spending it with my mom. Mm-hmm. We switch if we're in Florida or in Oregon. One of us flies one way each year. Mm-hmm. And that's just because we're the two people who like Christmas the most. Like, my brothers like Christmas. My mom's wife likes Christmas, but loves Christmas. That's me and my mom. The people who decorate, the people who get excited about it. It's us too. So spending Christmas apart from each other makes zero sense. So that's probably our biggest tradition. We also get a country ham, which we've always done. And I don't know why.
But you don't know why?
You just always get it.
Yeah.
It's delicious. We only have it that time of year. And it's kind of a pain to get.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of traditions that carry on year after year. When we lived in Virginia, we would open presents first thing and then go traveling to various relatives. I don't remember what we did when we first moved to Oregon. One year we went to Disney Christmas Day. We opened presents. We drove to Portland. I think we stayed in a hotel that night and then flew to Disney.
In California? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For a couple years, we went to a white elephant cribbage tournament. Okay. So our Christmases are pretty free-flowing. But my mom and I are always together because we are the Christmas people.
Okay. Well, let's say about what I don't do.
Okay.
I kind of stepped away from Christmas. I don't know, when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it meant a lot, and then as I got older, it didn't mean nearly as much. And then once I moved from a house to an apartment, it didn't really feel like Christmas all that much anymore. I don't know. It kind of lost its magic for me. So I don't put up a tree anymore. I guess that may change now, with being in a long-term relationship and everything. Yeah, I think Nicole probably wants to put up a tree, so maybe we'll do that next year. But we're also looking to get a house. But yeah, a lot of it, I lost a lot of my traditions, and I guess I'm going to maybe slowly get them back. It's kind of strange, but yeah, I mean, a lot of times we would just put up the tree. I would come down, open presents, when I was a kid and stuff like that. And then as I got older, a lot of that stuff just went away. So I said a lot of the magic went away for me.
Gotcha. Just by growing up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What is Christmas?
It's a holiday.
Oh, okay. I got it. You said, why do I do the traditions?
Why do you do what you do for Christmas? Like,
they're habits that have been formed.
Okay.
Yeah. So some stuff that like I did like with my parents when I was a kid, just because they did it. There's a lot of that stuff that I don't even do anymore. There's some stuff I do with my kids and their mom, but those are habits. Those are things that she kind of does or whatever. There's a couple things that with Lay that kind of like we did for a few years. We would set up like our tree while watching Nightmare Before Christmas. They're just habits that eventually like it form, but I don't do any of them anymore.
Do you do anything now?
No, actually. Like this holiday, there I am. This Christmas, I think I was supposed to have my kids, like my family, we used to get together on Christmas Eve. I think up until like last year, my family would get together all the way up until midnight. At midnight, we would open up the presents that we got, like for each other or whatever for the kids. And then after that, I'd take the kids over to their mom's house. And then they'd spend, the night at her house, because then Christmas morning, Santa Claus leaves gifts out for them. And then from there, they'll go to her mom's house and they'll go and wrap gifts and stuff like that. But the whole thing like that, the whole part with my family exchanging gifts, completely got out this year. I was like, my family's not really getting together to do anything, so I'm not going to do anything either. So you guys are going with your mom.
Why do we do what we do? Well, so we're all creatures of habit, but traditions have always been like, okay, well, it helps you, in my opinion, helps you remember the past, and it's kind of one of those things where it's a common rail where you can sit there and just kind of string everything together and remember. To me, consistency brings comfort, and there's also expectation, because if you always have like, if you're always supposed to go get a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken because mom's going to get off work at 8:00, that's what you do, and it's always fun.
Okay. So it's just kind of it's comfort in habit.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Expectations are already set, so you just continue on with that.
Correct.
Okay, makes sense. Now, another thing, the second question I have is what Christmas means to you. And what Christmas means to me is being together with people I love, thinking about all the things that are important to me, giving gifts to those that I love. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoy receiving gifts as well. But it's the spirit of Christmas and the holidays where everyone seems a little bit more loving, where a lot of people seem to be more peaceful. A lot of people will kind of slow down from it's a break from the normal monotony of life, the fast pace. Everything is go, go, go. Everyone kind of calms down and is a little more chill. We have food. We have time together, the lights. Everything is out of the norm, and it's probably my most favorite time of the year. And it means a lot to me to be able to spend that time with the people that I love. the people that are important to me in life.
Christmas to me personally, again, and I don't want to, just pour this out over everybody, but Christmas to me is about sharing some of the most important gifts with some of the most important people in the world to you. And it's really not about buying things necessarily or about getting things or anything, because the most valuable thing any of us have is time.
Yeah.
And you like when you have a Christmas, there's always going to be like that first Christmas with your child and the first Christmas since grandma passed. And, it's almost like healing. It's like Christmas is typically, it's always at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's the second to the last week of the year. It's like getting to home plate. It's like
another year in the books.
Take it, you made it, you lived, you're here. Have a reprieve. It's like, how can I describe it for gamers? So I don't know if you'll probably notice this, but I don't know if a lot of gamers do, or any gamers that play horror games, but something that always struck out to me about Resident Evil games specifically.
Okay.
When you get to a safe area in any Resident Evil game, it is playing the most calming music ever. In fact, the track from Resident Evil 3 is called Safe from Fear. Like, that's what it is. And it's kind of like that. Like, when you get to the Christmas season, it's like, I made it. Yeah. Because that's what you start in January, you end in December.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, okay, it's time to, not necessarily like, it's time to regroup. It's time to get the family together. It's time to love on one another. It's time to look at the person next to you and like give a crap about them.
Yeah.
And to me, Christmas is it's a blessing. It's sharing. It's loving. It's getting along. It's a lot of fun.
Christmas to me is a time to kind of put aside everything else. Like all the shit that goes on during the year, all the bad stuff, all the everything else just goes away for a little bit. The whole house changes. We have the decorations. It's this constant visual reminder to think of good things and get excited about good things and think about things above and beyond yourself.
Good question. It used to mean a lot to me, and we went through some things with family and everything too. So a lot of that family aspect went away. So it's different because, again, it's something that's being reclaimed. Now things with my family is better and stuff like that. I'm talking about like my grandmother, my aunts, my aunt, my uncle, and stuff like that. So it's coming back. So I don't know. I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this stuff.
It's fine. So it doesn't really mean much to you?
Not anymore. And I remember I got in trouble in school for writing a bitter paper for my English class.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, some kind of like English honors or AP, something like that. And it was, hey, write down. I did 2 projects. One I couldn't turn in, and one that I wanted to turn in. So one I couldn't turn in was about Santa Claus having a mental break and goes on a crime spree. No toys were delivered that year. Okay. It was kind of vulgar.
Wow.
Probably juvenile and immature.
Okay. All right.
But the other paper was a paper about what does Christmas mean to you. And so I took it a little further and said about that people should think about the season and being with family and maybe the religious aspects and everything of, what Christmas is. And instead it's been it's become a lot of commercialized, hey, let's give, this gift or that gift. And I was told that, for one, I got a very bad grade on it and told that it did not fit what she wanted. And it didn't fit what she wanted because it said a few words. It said, "This is extremely bitter." And I don't think it was bitter. I think it was being honest, and it was an opinion piece. But, I think that a lot of us get swept away with, trying to get these gifts and stuff like that. And that's not really what it should be about. It should be about, spending it with the ones you love and, thinking about, Christmas traditions that you may have and stuff like that. And a lot of that gets lost.
Gotcha. So you're just a little jaded. Just a little bit.
I'm a little jaded because a lot of it, like I said, it gets lost.
Yeah.
And it got lost for me a little bit. And, it's one of those things that I don't know how to describe it, but I think people need to really think about that stuff as opposed to what can I give somebody to make them happy.
I think Christmas time overall, it's still my favorite time of year. It's the idea of, it is the idea of giving, right? That positivity. I like, well, here in Florida, we don't really get it. Not really. We don't get it at all. The change of seasons, the cold, like I like that, right? Whenever I'm in any other city or state that actually, I feel like celebrates it, I think more, like as a community, I enjoy that vibe where everyone just seems more cheerful and less, bothered with everything else that's kind of all happened. You're closing out the year and you're going, hey, it's just that time of year to just give a little bit more of yourself, you know what I mean? And not feel like you're being taken advantage of. Sure.
So what I enjoy the most about Christmas, well, your listeners have heard me talk about, I love all the lights and just the ambiance per se, but the whole giving part, that's where the big flip happened. Because when I was a kid, it was like, okay, it was always cool to get stuff, but we didn't have jobs, so we really didn't give anything, or maybe drew something. But now all the lights and everything, it's like, okay, it's like getting people in the mode, okay? And there's nothing cooler to me than like knowing you nailed it when they open the gift and you're like, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I feel the same way. Like one of my goals is to get the person to cry.
Yeah, I know. I do too. It's kind of messed up, isn't it? Well, see,
you know that you did something right.
What I usually end up doing, especially with like my wife, is, or actually even our mom, it's like if I can tick them off first, and then it's like, bam, gotcha.
And finally, what is my most memorable Christmas memory? The first one that jumps out to me is Christmas of 2016. Anna and I have been together by that point for about a year. And her mom was coming into town. A lot of my friends were coming by, and everyone was going to my parents' house. My parents' house is super tiny. And we had so many people in there, and the house, just the vibe that was in the house was so electrifying and just so happy. It made me so happy. That was the first time that Anna's mom got to meet my parents. That was, I want to say Jeremy and Joe were there. I want to say it was something special about that day. And we had some people come by that normally we didn't see. And there was just something magical, something that my heart felt full. It's unfortunate that was the last time that I was able to get everyone together because the following year my dad had passed. But I'm glad that I will always have that memory of having everyone there. Even if it was that short time, I was able to achieve that. And that's the most memorable Christmas to me.
My most memorable Christmas memory. I can remember in 1990. I want to say it was 1990 because my little brother was a baby and it was Christmas 1990. My little brother had just been born. He was born a week before Christmas. And so my mom, having just gotten out of the hospital with my little brother, we all went and stayed at my grandmother's for a couple days. We were out of school. Mom was out of the hospital. So it was me, my two older brothers, my aunt, one of my cousins, my other aunt, another one of my cousins who were both real little, my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, a couple of his kids, all in one house. And I don't know why specifically, but for some reason this year they were doing rolling blackouts. So we would be in the living room, and my family's West Indian. So cooking and like making the Jamaican food is a big deal for Christmas. So the power would go out and my aunt would be like telling a ghost story, or we'd be playing a board game under candlelight or whatever the case may be. And then the power would come back on and all of the adults would immediately instant transmit to the kitchen and just cook as much as they could. And then the power would go back out and they'd come back in and we'd continue our stories or whatever. And then it'd come back on and it was a dash just to get everything done. And it was easily the most stressful thing I think I had ever witnessed as a child, but nobody complained. And it was the first time, and I think the only time that I can remember, that my entire family had Christmas in one place. Like, we all went to bed on Christmas Eve, woke up on Christmas Day. It took like 3 hours for everybody to open all their presents and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. But just that evening with the rolling blackouts was just the most amazing. It was so much fun. And I know they were tired. And my poor mom, after having a child around the Christmas season, because my son's birthday is a day after my little brother's birthday, having a newborn during a holiday and trying to accomplish anything during that holiday is just a nightmare. And let me not say a nightmare, but it's very challenging. And to have an appreciation for how they handled that now, you know, a lot of believers will say that God has a sense of humor, and it just hit me how funny it is that Ethan was born on the 19th, and we struggled that Christmas. Like, I couldn't even keep my eyes open, and I had to drive from like Wesley Chapel down to New Tampa, all over the place, and then got back. I was living in Temple Terrace at the time, and got back there and was like, the three of us are alive. Merry Christmas, go to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like that rolling blackouts in 1990. 1990.
Yeah.
That was my favorite, hands down.
So, like I said, when we lived on the East Coast, we'd get up early, we'd open our presents, and then we would travel to all these different relatives in Virginia. And we'd eat all day long. We would just like, I don't know how we planned it. It was before internet. We weren't sending texts back and forth. But everywhere we went, it'd be dinner time. Or they'd just finished dinner and we would get sandwiches, or we'd get plate after plate after plate. And then we would take our toys or our things we were excited about. And the kids we visited would have their toys and we just played with them. And then that group would pick up and we'd go to the next group. So like it just grew and grew and grew. And like all these people just traveling to family all day long.
Okay.
So we were doing that. And we lived in Maryland at the time. And then it started to snow. And we were maybe, God, as a kid, I don't know how time works. We were a ways away from home. It wasn't like we were 20 minutes on the road. We were like an hour or two. And it kind of started to snow a little bit. And we're like, oh, well, we better get on the road. Let's cut this short. So we got on the road and then it just started blizzarding. I always fell asleep in the car, so I was asleep. And I guess we hit a patch of ice. Car spun around. I remember I woke up like staring at a rock wall and my mom and dad screaming. Like, and so it was my mom, my dad, me, my older brother, and I had 2 younger brothers who the youngest one was maybe 3.
Okay.
2 or 3. Really young. But we were still a ways from home. Didn't have Uber, you know. So my mom was like, we can't drive anymore. My dad's like, it's the middle of the night. It's cold. Not driving is not an option. So we drove real slow. And then I want to say there's like real big hills to get to our house. And my mom was like, nope, we are close enough. We are not going down those hills with the snow and the ice and the visibility. So we parked our van at this little farmhouse and we walked. We did not leave our house that morning planning to walk in a blizzard however long it was to get home. It was probably like 3 miles. We were not walking forever, but it was quite a hike. We had rain boots in the car. There are a lot of kids, so there's always shoe options. We probably had decent coats, but not like a blizzard coat. But my mom was in Birkenstocks with socks. So we trudged and we stopped at I think 2 or 3 houses along the way to get different shoes. Some fireman gave us socks. Like, it was ridiculous. And then we were snowed in for like a week. That was the most memorable Christmas.
That's a good question because a lot of that stuff is from when I was a kid growing up in Pennsylvania. It would be a combination of memories, and that was just for one, we generally wouldn't have a lot of white Christmases. Every once in a while we would, and I really liked those times. It felt right, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And down here, since we don't have super cold weather or anything, it doesn't give me a lot of good memories. However, thinking back on it now that my parents aren't here anymore, I have a lot of good memories like with them. Like, even though my mom and dad were divorced, they were like best of friends, and he would still come over, you know, on Christmas and stuff like that. And it was a pretty great time.
Okay. Any particular thing stick out that you can think of?
Any particular thing?
Or just...
Probably, and this goes against what I was just saying about presents, but probably the year that I got a Sony PlayStation. I was told that the Super Nintendo would be my last game system that was ever bought for me. And I remember saying about the PlayStation was the only thing I wanted, that was the thing. And my mom kept playing it cool, you know, I'm like, and it made me feel like a real jerk because I was there like, well, if I'm not getting the PlayStation, I don't want anything else. I was a spoiled brat kid. And sure enough, opened up all the presents, and then she's like, well, can't open those. And I'm like, why? She's like, because you got to open this first. And I'm like, what? She's there like, you know, and I opened it up, and it was a Sony PlayStation. It was like the most amazing thing. I mean, I had essentially an arcade perfect version of Mortal Kombat 3. I mean, it was absolutely amazing.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was probably one of my favorite gifts I ever received because she did a good job of making me think I wasn't going to get it.
Yeah. There's a lot tied to it.
Yeah, and like I said, I was that spoiled brat kid that said something like that. And yeah, it was an absolutely amazing time. And, you know, I had my dog was still with me at that point, and yeah, it was good.
So just now when you asked that, It was when my parents gave me a Game Boy Color. That's like split second, right? That's the first thing that jumped to mind. And it's because they did that whole box within a box within a box within a box thing. I went through a lot of boxes, Marvin. And eventually, like, I opened it up and was all like, oh my God, like, you guys got me this thing. And so, yeah. Yeah. I think that's, geez. The first time, like, each one of my kids, went that whole, like, Santa Claus thing in the morning that they do at their mom's house. When they come running out there excited for that kind of stuff, I can recall that. All four of them. It's the excitement, the joy on their faces that definitely did that. I think that's kind of it. That it's like really just like jumps highlights, that jumps up.
Most memorable Christmas memory? Oh, geez, there's so many.
First one that jumped out.
The first one that jumped out. Okay, I'm gonna frame it. Christmas of 1989. It was so cold here in Florida. It was unusually cold to the point where people were running their heaters like crazy, and it just made doing normal things more difficult because first of all, Floridians don't like being cold to begin with, but here we're seeing like where temperatures in the 30s and 40s like in the middle of the day, and at night it would just dip where people had to like wrap their pipes. So you saw like random, bed sheets and all sorts of stuff. I think our dad used like a pieces of a parachute or something. I forgot what it was to wrap our pipes. But what really stands out is, so our mom always worked Christmas Eve. So we always made sure there was food there. We'd get takeout or something. It was just easy. So we'd get takeout. So when she got off of work at 8 o'clock, there was, with a Kentucky Fried Chicken or Pizza Hut or whatever. But this one particular Christmas, she wanted both. So they had rolling brownouts, and we're driving down Dale Mabry trying to get to a Pizza Hut that still had power. So we're headed north. We're looking behind us, and things are just losing power, and everything is going black. And then, like, the lights are just blinking because there's no power to the traffic lights. It was freaking awesome.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that's the first one that sticks out.
That's the one that sticks out for me, too, because I remember not understanding. I was like, why don't we just go to that pizza place over there? Because I didn't know anything better. And I remember there was one that was always on Waters near Pinecrest called Bruno's.
Yeah.
I'd never been there. But I knew it's been there forever. And it's still a pizza place.
I've never been.
I don't know if it's the same pizza place, but I know it's a pizza place.
We ended up in a Pizza Hut way north, I think now. What's what they call Lutz.
Mm-hmm. I remember it was out there.
Yeah, and then we got it, and because that was also before cell phones.
Yeah.
So
there was no calling ahead.
No, you couldn't really call on the way.
Yeah.
So and we tried to make some phone calls beforehand, but everyone was busy. So it was like, but we did get it. The chicken place, not a problem, but the pizza was the challenge. But
it takes a lot longer to cook a pizza.
Yeah, but we did it and we got it, and the cool thing is we never lost power.
Nope.
Because we were on the same circuit as the sewage treatment plant, which they are now closing.
They're decommissioning it.
They're decommissioning it.
And there you have it. And that's just a little insight on some of the close people around me and their thoughts on Christmas, why they do what they do, what it means to them, and what's their most memorable Christmas memory. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and listening, and I'm hoping that this format for this special holiday goes over well. And I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. And just take the time. If you don't celebrate Christmas, that's fine. Just take the time, enjoy people's company, love one another, and just do your best. Peace, love, and joy. Happy holidays, everyone.